Okay, in the last video, I talked about how pitchers get weaker as they fatigue during a game. This video, I want to talk about how they can get stronger if they pitch well during a game. So, Box Seat has a mechanic called the Outstanding Stuff mechanic. And at the beginning of the game, and this only relates to the starting pitcher of the game, you don't have to do this with relief pitchers, but only the starter. You will look at their hit and walk columns, and you will count the highest number on the column where they block a hit or a walk. And so you have four numbers essentially. So here's Jack Billingham again. And you look at his hit rating versus lefties and versus righties, and his walk rating versus lefties and versus righties. So his hit rating against lefties, the first line he blocks a hit is the one line, so that's one. The second one you're going to look at is versus righties, and you notice he has a split rating there. With the bases empty, he gives up a hit in that situation. With runners on, he blocks it, turns it into a line out. So you count that as a half. So it's 1.5 because it's one. But it's not a whole one. It's down a little bit below. So it's 1.5. So 1 plus 1.5 is 2.5. Now go over to his walks, and they're -1 against both lefties and righties. So that's a -2 when you add those together. So plus 2.5 minus 2 is plus 1/2. And that is what you need to remember to determine if he's going to get an outstanding stuff bonus. And on this page that I showed you when I was talking about pitchers having a bad inning, there's three charts here, outstanding stuff requirements charts. And you have the pitcher fatigue base, which is what we just calculated. If it's between -2.5 and +2.5, like Billingham's is, then if he pitches 4 innings, and he only gives up 3 points worth of hits and or walks, and it's basically, it says completion of first 4 innings and meets points requirement with 2 points for home runs and 1 point for all other hit types and walks. So if that total for him is 3 or less, he's going to get an outstanding stuff bonus in the first 4 innings. In the 5th and 6th inning, if he's met that first parameter and he's in innings 5 or 6 and he hasn't gone above 5 points, again using this formula, then he's going to keep that outstanding stuff bonus. 2 things happen when you get an outstanding stuff bonus. Number 1, you get additional fatigue points, and you get it equal to, if it's a classic season, which is pre-1990, and we're talking about 1974, you would add 4 points to his level 1 fatigue number or 3 points to his level 2 fatigue number. Billingham's were 26 and 19, so they would become essentially 30 and 22. So that would give him the ability to go deeper into the game before he runs into fatigue. Okay, then the second thing that you get the benefit of is if you look at adjustment, when the A or B pitcher symbol is received off the flip card or off the pitcher's die, you use the situational outs chart for an out result in innings 5 or 6 only. Meaning, if you were to roll this pitcher die and you got an A or a B, so let's look at Cesar Cedeno of the Astros. And he's facing a righty, Billingham. Rolled a 44. That's a single one against a righty. It's not in his hit range. And if it were in his hit range, then it would be a hit, because that's the first thing you check. His hit number is 77. He rolled a 16. So now you're going to the pitcher die and you got a B. Normally, that would be a hit, because a starting pitcher is not going to block a B unless it's early or late and he has an A or a B rating for that. But if we're in the middle innings and Cedeno rolled this combination and Billingham had his outstanding stuff bonus, he would block that hit because of the B. Or if that pitcher die was an A, he would block that as well. So that is a way that the game rewards the pitcher for having good stuff. He blocks some hits in the middle innings 5 and 6, when you get an A or a B on the pitcher die. So that leads me to want to just make sure you understand these letters that Billingham has. And I find Billingham's card an interesting one to use because he's got an E rating for early, which is the worst rating, and he's got an A rating for late, which is the best rating. So in other words, batters got to him pretty well in the first inning. Then he normalized. And if he made it into the late innings, he actually did a really good job of getting batters out. So he got better as the game went on. And so if you think about that, look at his hit matrix. A pitcher's hit matrix has 7 rows in it, ranging from -3 to +3. The pitcher die has 10 faces on it, representing -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and then 2D and 3E, and then A, B, and R. Okay, R is range, so that's going to be checking a fielder. Pitcher has nothing to do with that. -3 down through 3 are right here on the hit matrix. And you can see that Billingham will never block a hit on a -3, or a -2, or a -1, or a 0. On a 1, he would block it against a lefty, and he would block it against a righty with runners on base, because the line out is after the slash. If there are no runners on, it's his BTR, which means you use the batter result, which is going to be a hit. Okay, the 2 and the 3, remember that on the die, there are the letters next to them. Here's 3E, and here is 2D. So again, what that means is, if it's early or late, and the pitcher is a D, then that 2 is going to turn into a hit. But if it's not early, it's not late, or the starting pitcher isn't in the game, or his rating is better than D, as in A, B, or C, then you're going to use the 2 line, and you would block it. Same thing with 3E. Use the same logic for that. If the pitcher's an E, then it's the batter's result. If the pitcher is not an E, then you use his 3 line. In this case, he blocks it. So what's going to happen with Billingham here? So if it's early in the game, and Cedeno rolled the 44 and the 16, which means it's not an automatic hit, you're going to go over to the pitcher die, and you see that 2D. Well, if it's the first inning, Billingham is an E. So he's not going to block the hit. You're going to use the batter's result, because that 2 line essentially disappears in the first inning, as does the 3 line in the first inning. So think about in the first inning, his card, his hit matrix, is only going to have the 1 line showing. It's going to be missing the 2 and the 3 because of his E early rating. So that would be a hit. If it's the 2nd through the 6th inning, then that 2 is going to count, because you don't use the letter ratings in the middle innings, or from the 2nd inning through the 6th inning. So Cedeno would hit a foul pop, and we'd check the flip card to see who it was hit to, and he would be out. If you get to the late innings, he's not a D, he's an A. He's very good. So those 2 and 3 lines are going to hold, but then think about 2 invisible lines above the -3 that say A and B, which are always blank for pitchers, except in 2 circumstances. If they have an early or a late rating of A or B, then the A or B would turn into a special situation out. And you would use this chart right here to determine what type of out it is. Or if it's the 5th or 6th inning and the pitcher has gotten his outstanding stuff bonus, the A and the B turn into outs in those situations. So these are, again, ways that the pitcher's effectiveness can vary based on what the situation is in the game and how he's performing. So this is a way that the pitcher can get better as the game goes on if he's got good stuff. And I brought some other pitcher cards out to show with this. Here's Roger Nelson, teammate of Billingham's on the Reds. If you look at his card, he blocks a lot of hits. -2 against lefties. It'd be -2.5 against righties. and then 1 and 0 on the walk. So his total would be would be minus 3.5. And here you can see for him to get an outstanding stuff bonus, he has to be even better early on. He can't give up more than 2 points to be able to get his outstanding stuff bonus because he's already working off of a really good base. So in other words, he already has really good stuff. To get outstanding stuff, he's going to have to be much better. He is a B early and an E late. So contrast to Billingham, he's good in the first inning and he's very poor in the late innings. So that's something you have to consider with him. Here's another Reds pitcher, Dick Bainey, who only started 1 game. He has a completely blank column on the lefties on hits. So that would be essentially a 4. And then he gets a half for his right-handed hit rating because it's split on the 0 line, and then 0 for both the lefties and righties on walks. So his total is 4.5. And here you're going to use the third chart. He can give up 4 points worth of hits and walks and still get the outstanding stuff bonus because he's not very good to begin with. So if somehow he's not giving up hits, then you're going to get an advantage from him if he gets to the middle innings. And judging by his fatigue numbers, and he only started 1 game, he's probably not going to pitch into the middle innings, when you start him. But if you did, he would have the advantage of a little bit more opportunity for error in the first few innings to still get an outstanding stuff bonus. And you can see he's also an E early, so he's another pitcher that gets knocked around in the first inning. So again, these are things you have to get used to with the game, but I feel like they really replicate the game of baseball well. Some pitchers just have it in the first inning, and some pitchers get stronger as the game goes on. And some pitchers have good stuff on certain days. Really, all pitchers have good stuff on certain days and bad stuff on other days. And this mechanic allows you to observe that in the game and adjust to it. And I really like that aspect. You also get benefits for pitchers completing a number of innings. So if a pitcher is able to get, if you look where it says complete games pitcher fatigue adjustments, modern seasons, it's completion of the first 7 innings, allowing no more than 1 earned run. And classic seasons like 1974, completion of the first 8 innings and allows no more than 3 earned runs. You get an adjustment of 4 to your level 1 fatigue or 3 to your level 2 fatigue. But if you've already gotten the outstanding stuff bonus where you got the 4 or the 3, you only get an additional 2 or 1. So you could have a game, going back to Billingham here, where he starts out at 26. He gets outstanding stuff that gets him to 30. And then say he gets into the 9th inning and he's only given up 2 runs. He's going to get 2 more points of fatigue. And if the weather were good on that day, or you're pitching in the Astrodome where the temperature is always 72 degrees, he'll get an additional 2 points at the beginning of the game. So his 26 could go as high as 34, and that would get him almost 4 times through the lineup before he would run into fatigue. And that's how Jack Billingham could throw a complete game, even with only 26 on his level 1 fatigue, 26 batters, which is not even 3 times through the order. So some really different mechanics, some ways to represent pitcher effectiveness in a lot of different ways. I love that about this game. And hopefully I was able to explain everything pretty well. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. But this is something I've been wanting to talk about because I really like how the game plays. And in my 1974 replay, I've had some pitchers who you wouldn't necessarily expect to throw great games have done it. And Don Gullett actually threw a no-hitter, and I think his level 1 fatigue is pretty low. But he had great stuff that day, and he got stronger as the game went on, and he ended up throwing a no-hitter. So that's something that can happen in box seat that I really, really like. So hope you have enjoyed these videos, and thanks for watching.